teacher certification course. My name is William. Glad you all tuned in this evening. If you don't have a book, we're in the acceptance unit, the junior high acceptance unit. You can download the unit by going up to the top of the Facebook page there, official Peaceful Solution Facebook page, and clicking on, I believe there's a manual that says character. If you hit the drop-down button, the drop-down menu, you can click on the acceptance unit teacher's manual and you can read along with us. We're in chapter 6 entitled Reach for Your Goals. We're going to be on page 112 tonight. What's the difference? But before we do that, as we always do in the Peaceful Solution, we're going to do a little bit of a review of the last class, and then we'll continue on our reading on page 112 of the negative goals that I left off on last time. If you recall, in the last class, we were talking about the difference between positive goals and negative goals. And on page 112 at the top, it says, although there are many types of goals, most goals can be categorized as either positive or negative. A moral positive goal is beneficial for yourself and others. In other words, it's going to do something to help build your character, and it's going to help strengthen other people's character as well. It's not going to bring them any harm in any way. It's going to be of value to their life. It's going to add value to someone's existence. Now, a moral positive goal is beneficial for yourself and others. It strengthens and motivates you to succeed and will build moral character. Now, negative immoral goal, which we're going to be talking about a little more in depth here in just a moment, is not advantageous, healthy, or beneficial. In other words, it could cause sickness, disease. Remember that word disease we went over a few classes ago. It's going to bring some kind of dis-ease into our life, whether it's physical or mental. And not only ourselves, but other people's as well, as we'll see later on tonight when we talk a little bit about the birth defects. Now, a negative immoral goal is not advantageous, healthy, or beneficial. If it is achieved, it could result in harm to yourself or others. What I want to do real quickly is go back to Lesson Plan 6, page D. We're going to look at number 4, but we're not going to read the whole thing. We're going to drop down to the bottom to kind of look at what we're going to be looking at here tonight. At the bottom it says, use self-control. Have students turn to the section entitled Use Self-Control and Morality when Setting Goals, found on page 113 and 114 in their handbooks. We're already covering page 112 now, which is part of this actual step here, but I've already read that. We're going to also be looking at page 113 and 14 about self-control and morality when setting goals, and instruct students to read the articles and then answer the questions that follow, and discuss the illustration found on page 115 and the consequences of each of the goals shown. So that's where we're at now on page 112, and we'll be going into 113 and 114 here in just a moment. But let's go ahead and just recap a little bit here about the positive goals. Positive goals, on page 112, it says, positive, honest, moral goals will help you to be a better person, okay? They will support your choice to develop a moral character. And it gave the example that Randy wants a great grade on his math, and wanting to earn it honestly, he studied and got an A. And then positive, honest, moral goals cause no harm and have no negative effects to yourself or others. And it gave the example that John is tired of being picked on by the school bully, and he plans to find a peaceful way to handle the problem by speaking to his parents and guidance counselors. And then the last positive goal, the example given is positive, honest, moral goals will help you achieve your purpose. Remember on page 87, we discussed what purpose is. You know, your purpose, in fact, let's go ahead and just turn back there just real quick. Purpose on page 87 is defined as to have a positive direction in which to grow and mature. Key is positive. Remember, positive means something that's going to be advantageous to others and yourself, something that's going to bring added value to our world, okay? So your purpose has to be something that's positive, you know, because If it's something that's negative, of course, it's going to, we've already got plenty of negative things going on in the world right now. That's why we need the peaceful solution so badly. We don't need to be adding to it by having a goal like being, the top drug distributor in your neighborhood, or, such goals as that. They're going to bring harm to yourself and someone else. And it says, back on page 112, that positive, honest, moral goals will help you achieve your purpose. And it gave the example that Valerie's purpose is to help others. Her goal is to become a nurse. So let's look at the other side of the coin here on negative goals. Okay? And it says negative goals, negative and moral goals, will compromise your choice to have an honest moral character and be a better person. And as I said in the last class, everybody's goal, really the greatest goal any of us should have, is to build a positive character and become the best person we can be, because really in the end of our life, heaven forbid that takes place, but it does. The only thing we're going to be remembered by is really how we treated others and how we handled situations and how we treated ourselves. Our character is what we're going to take. It's what people are going to remember us for, is our character. What kind of person were we? So it says, negative and moral goals will compromise your choice to have an honest moral character and be a better person. And the example is that 12-year-old Michelle is determined to experiment with drugs by the time she's 13. She won't have to wait long. She's only got one more year, but I know I was already experimenting with the drugs when I was about 11. I didn't have to wait till I was 13. I don't think that it was a goal that I set. I think it was just something that took place. I saw other people using some drugs, or I saw some people getting drunk, and I asked if I could join them, some younger people. And that's how I was kind of introduced to the drinking and the drugs, was just, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, so to speak. But nonetheless, that kind of goal will not help you to develop the positive moral character that the peaceful solution seeks to instill in all of us. The second negative goal, it says, negative and moral goals cause harm and have negative effect on others. So it says, John is tired of being picked on by the school bully, and he plans to retaliate by bringing a weapon to school. Unlike John right across the page there in positive, honest goals, cause no harm, John is going to choose the wrong way, which is going to lead to, retaliation always leads to more retaliation, but it also leads to negative consequences. Because if John brings a weapon to school, whether a gun or a knife, whether he uses it or not, if he's caught with that weapon, he's going to be suspended for a long, long time if he's ever allowed to come back to the school at all. They take that very seriously, bringing any kind of weapons into a school, even by a school within 100 yards or 200 yards of a school. Bringing any kind of weapons can be a really, really bad deal for John here. But what if he does retaliate? What if he actually uses the weapon? Somebody could get seriously hurt. Somebody could get killed. Innocent bystanders could get killed. It might not just be the one that he's trying to get even with, that he's seeking to get revenge on. Because a lot of these school shootings, as you know, a lot of innocent people get caught up in the crossfire, and it affects a lot of people's lives, emotionally, psychologically, to have to live through a school shooting, if they live through it at all. So this is not the right way, it's a negative goal when you choose to do something that could bring harm to somebody by retaliating. And then the third one says, negative and moral goals can prevent you from achieving your purpose. The example is, Landon's purpose is to become rich one day. His goal is to sell drugs. Now, would it necessarily be wrong to want to earn a lot of money and have a lot of money in the bank? No, there's nothing wrong with that. But there is something wrong if you choose to do it, enrich yourself by bringing harm to someone else or yourself. by selling drugs, by engaging in any kind of activity, robbing banks, counterfeiting money, or whatever else you might decide to do to get rich. It's gonna prevent you from achieving your purpose, because if your purpose is to become a better person, or your purpose is to help others, etc., and you do things like this, you'll never reach that. You'll never realize that purpose. You'll be rotting in a jail cell, prison cell, or you might even end up dead, and you'll never realize, and your life, our life, everyone's life has purpose, but it needs to be positive purpose. We need to set positive goals, whether short or long term, and they need to be positive. Your purpose should be to serve others, to help others, to become the best person you can be, and to lead others in that same direction so they too can have a great life. Now, you remember, well, let's go ahead and go to page 113 at the top. These are just, we just went over the examples of positive goals and negative goals on page 112. We'll go on to page 113 here. It says, use self-control and morality when setting goals. Turn over to page 157 in your book real quick, and we'll look at what self-control is. According to the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, look at page 157 and number 9. It says, self-control is not yielding to impulsive thoughts and actions. Now, that word impulsive, I believe, back in the character unit, we went over that word impulsive pretty extensively. But for the newcomers here, and for even us that might have forgotten, that word impulsive, when you ask most people what the word impulsive means, they usually will say something like, well, I did something without thinking about it first. I just did it without thinking. But the truth is, you're always thinking. I remember when I used to do things that were negative, whether it was stealing, and I'll use stealing as an example. If I was stealing something, I was thinking. Like if I was shoplifting, I was thinking, was anybody watching me? I was thinking about what I was going to do with the item when I got it home. I was thinking about how wonderful it was that it was going to be free. I didn't have to pay anything for it. I was thinking. But as we learn in the Peaceful Solution, impulsive means not thinking about the consequences of what we're getting ready to do, not carefully considering the outcome of what we're getting ready to do. The end result, as we learned in the last class, not looking at the end result of our actions. And it says, for example, you saw your sister's letter on her dresser and you really wanted to read it. But because you chose to respect her privacy, you decide not to touch it. Notice, it started in the mind. Now, the thought came because of the environment. She saw a letter sitting there on the table. But then the thought came into her mind, the letter sitting on the table and no one else around, stimulated this thought in her mind that, hey, I'd like to read that, and see what's going on with my sister. But the self-control kicked in, thankfully, and she considered, she might have even considered, I wouldn't want anybody to do that to me, so I'm going to go ahead and respect my sister's privacy, even though I would like to read the letter. And she decided not to do it, and decided not to even touch it. Because even if she had touched it and not read it, did she have permission to touch it? No. So when we touch things without permission, as we learn in the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, we're actually stealing when we touch things without asking first. So let's go back now to page 113, now that we've defined self-control. Self-control, it says use self-control and morality when setting goals. And remember, we went over morality on page 8 last time. Moral means morals are rules that if followed, they don't bring harm to anyone. They're just, for everyone. They're fair to everyone. They don't bring harm to anybody, yourself, the environment, etc. So it says, to determine if your goals are positive, moral, and honest, or negative, immoral, and dishonest, think carefully about the outcome or end result. Now, you remember last class, we talked about, the goal that America and its allies set in World War II of ending the war, okay? And how they purposed to achieve that goal, or how they planned to achieve that goal, was to make a weapon that was so destructive that it would strike such fear in their enemies and do such damage that their enemies would never choose to rise up against them again, and that would end all the wars. There'd be no more wars, since they had the biggest weapon. Of course, that didn't work out too well, as we learned. They wanted to have peace, but now let me show you what we've created. I told you what we created last class when I told you that now the secret got out just a few months after they made the weapon, and the Russians were given the secrets, and the Russians developed their own weapon. So now, there's this big race to try to keep all the nations from getting these nuclear weapons. So the goal didn't quite end the way they would like it to. Of course, now there's a lot of people that are kind of glad they got these weapons, because there's a lot of money to be made. Can you show the slide that I've got here? It's called, now we refer to it as the radioactive golden calf. There's money to be made in the nuclear armaments industry. Okay, now, in fact, I showed a picture last class. I showed a picture of Israel Hawkins. You can leave this picture up while I'm talking. I showed a picture of the author of The Peaceful Solution, Israel Hawkins, at the United Nations. Remember, and I talked about how the Peaceful Solutions goal is to bring peace through education. To stop all wars with the 3 steps I went over in the last class. There is a way to end the wars, but it's not through armaments. It's not through force. It's not through bombs and guns and weapons of any kind. Not even your hands strangling somebody. No kind of force is necessary to bring peace. Peace can come through education. But when Israel Hawkins was at the United Nations, he spoke to the Secretary General there about the nuclear armaments industry, and Israel Hawkins, told him all about the goals of the Peaceful Solution, and how, the Peaceful Solution wanted to end the wars through education. And the man told him, his name was Bawa Jay, and he told him, he said, this is an $800 billion a year industry, this nuclear weapons, radioactive golden calf. It's making a lot of money for a lot of people. And he says, you're never going to be able to do this. There's just too much money involved here. Well, that didn't stop Israel Hawkins. He's still teaching. He still continued to teach this peace, and we're still teaching the Peaceful Solution, because we know that even though right now a lot of people just aren't thinking about the end result of the nuclear weapons industry. They're not thinking about when those bombs are finally used, that their money is going to be worthless, that all the money that they're making right now off these bombs is going to be worthless, because there will be nowhere to spend it. Okay? There will be nowhere to spend it. There'll be no earth left to enjoy their money. Now, they're not thinking about this end result. Okay? And but anyway, let's go ahead and go back to the reading here. It says, if you were to achieve your goal, how could it affect you and those around you? Keep in mind that the ability to stop, think, and weigh the consequences of your actions is called self-control. Like we saw the girl there about her sister's letter. She stopped. She put her emotions or her thoughts in check there. Okay? And she considered what she needed to do in that situation, what she should or shouldn't do. She thought about the end result of what she was getting ready to do, and she decided not to touch her sister's letter. That's called self-control, when we can do this, when we can stop and think before we do things, instead of acting impulsively and then having the regrets later. It's, what they say in the Peaceful Solution, hindsight is 20/20, right? It's easy to look back on something that we did or said, and we can see so clearly afterwards how we should have handled that situation, or what we should have said, how we should have behaved. We can see it so clearly afterwards. But we're in the middle of something, when we're in the heat of the moment, we don't think so clearly sometimes because we haven't been trained to do so yet. And all logic goes out the window, and then we act on impulse without thinking of the consequences and the end result, and then we have nothing but regrets later. Okay? And that's what the peaceful solution is trying to help us to lose, is regrets. You know, we shouldn't have to look back with regret. We should be able to look back and say, man, I'm so glad I made the right choice in that situation, you know, but never looking back and thinking, man, I should have done it this way. I should have done it differently so I didn't bring harm to myself or someone else. Now I'm sitting in this filthy hole, 4 walls, a toilet, and no place to roam. My new home, right? This is what it can end up being, okay? And, you know, usually when we're in a situation like that, you know, we blame everybody else but our own self. You know, it was the judge's fault. It was the police officer's fault because he arrested me. It was my mom's fault because she didn't give me that chocolate ice cream when I was 8 years old when I asked for it, or whatever else we can blame, right? My dad was an alcoholic, so I'm an alcoholic, or whatever excuse we come up with. You know, we need to start learning to put all these things, we need to start taking responsibility for our own choices, for our own thoughts, for our own feelings, for our own actions. And the peaceful solution is showing us how to do it right here. It's that ability to stop, think, and weigh the consequences of your actions before you act, before you speak. And if we can do that, we're going to have a lot less regrets. It says, valuing your life and possessions and that of others is the basis of moral and ethical principles. You know, it's treating others with the same consideration, care, and concern that you want shown to yourself. I remember the peaceful solution in a certain place in the peaceful solution. It says that, you know, if you're ever in doubt as to what to do or how to act or what to say, always think, well, how would I want someone to act toward me? How would I want someone to say this to me? How would I want this done to me? Okay, because nobody likes to be disrespected. Nobody likes to be stolen from. Nobody likes to be taken advantage of. Nobody likes those things. Okay, and if they don't like them, neither do we. I just realized that thing was hanging on my ear. Okay. Self-control and morality are the foundation of all positive goals. In fact, self-control is the foundation of every moral act, every right choice. It's the foundation, because without self-control, you're not going to stop and think of the consequences, or you're not going to stop and think of the outcome or the end result, as it says here in that first paragraph. Self-control and morality. Remember that morality, that right actions that don't bring harm to yourself or anyone else. They're the foundation. They're the ground floor of all positive goals. Without them, you can't achieve a positive goal, because moral means positive. Okay? And if there's no morality, or there's a lack of morality, or there's something done that's immoral in any way in your quest to achieve your goals along the way, if there's something that's done immoral to reach that goal, it won't be a positive outcome. It can't be. Okay? It has to be based on self-control, stopping and thinking, and also the morality, you know, the treating others the way, with the same consideration, care, and concern you want to be treated with the respect, with the honesty, etc. People who stop, think, and set morally positive goals demonstrate respect for themselves and others. Setting positive goals will allow them to lead a life that is fulfilling and rewarding. These people are also examples and role models to those around them. On the other hand, goals that are made impulsively and because of emotions such as hate, anger, revenge, or jealousy can result in harm to oneself and to others. Let's read that again, because, and this should strike, I'm going to go back to the last class again. It should strike the thought in your mind about the goal that the United States and its allies had to end the war. Remember, this goal that they set was made impulsively because they didn't think about the end result of building these nuclear weapons. Okay? First of all, they didn't even think of the short-term effect of building an atomic weapon, because the atomic weapon was kind of a baby compared to the teenage and adult nuclear weapons, which are hundreds of times more powerful than the bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. These nuclear weapons now are 1,000 or hundreds and thousands of times more powerful than those bombs. So, and they became much more powerful in a very short period of time. The hydrogen bomb, I think, was exploded, the first one in what, 1951? Something like that? 1951, just 6 short years later, a hydrogen bomb. A hydrogen bomb is much more, it's megatons. You know, that's millions of tons, the equivalent of millions of tons of TNT, dynamite, which reminds me, you know, the man that invented dynamite actually won the Nobel Peace Prize. Actually, the Nobel Peace Prize was named after him, wasn't it? Yeah, Nobel, Alfred Nobel. The Nobel Peace Prize was named after a man that invented dynamite. If that's not irony, I don't know what is. Certainly the dynamite hasn't helped bring peace, I can tell you that right now. It never will, using explosives. That won't bring peace, as we're talking about. But, you know, this goal that they set, was made impulsively, and it was made because of they wanted revenge. They wanted to revenge on their enemy. Could there have been a positive outcome with that kind of goal in mind? Could there have been a positive outcome? Now, this is in fairness to the people that made the decision to pursue the atomic weapons. They weren't taught the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. Because if they had been, and had even read this one sentence right here, this one paragraph right here, would have got them to stop and think before they pursued this goal. Again, goals that are made impulsively and because of emotions like hate for your enemy, anger against your enemy, revenge against your enemy, or jealousy can result in harm to yourself and to others. Okay? Now, let's read these following articles and let's answer the questions that follow. Okay? Let's start with 3 boys plot to kill. This is from 1998. It says 3 6th grade boys had a hit list and were plotting to kill fellow classmates in a sniper attack on the last day of school, police in St. Charles, Missouri say. And that's from abcnews.go.com. Now, it doesn't say how old the boys are. No, they're 6th grade, so they can't be older than, what, 10, 11? And they've got a hit list, which means that they had a list of people that they were targeting, and they were plotting to kill them in a sniper attack. I don't know if that meant one of them was going to get up on the roof with a gun and start sniping them out in the playground or whatever was taking place. But this was a plot. That means it was a scheme. It was a plan. It was something that they were, that these 3 boys talked about for some length of time at least, and they had it in their mind. They had malice forethought in their mind to take the life of other people. Is that a positive goal? I don't know. Can we show the next slide? This is a picture of, his name is General Leslie R. Groves. He is the man that was responsible for heading the Manhattan Project, okay, along with J.R. Oppenheimer, but he was the military commander that was in charge of the Manhattan Project. He was also the man that built the Pentagon, okay? This man was a busy man back then, okay, because this all occurred in the 40s, okay, in the early 40s. The first 5 years of the 40s, this man built the Pentagon. He was in charge of the Manhattan Project. These were huge, huge undertakings. This picture right here shows General Groves just a couple weeks before the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This is a propaganda picture that was put out to scare the Japanese, particularly the Emperor of Japan. Okay? And it shows him looking at a world map, specifically in the Pacific Ocean area there. And he's looking, if you notice, his eyes are looking at the island of Japan. Okay? He's not saying he's going to do anything to Japan. He's not saying anything. He's just showing, hey, I got my eye on this island right here. Okay? In other words, he's plotting, him and his friends, him and the Allies were plotting to bomb Hiroshima and Nagasaki with a new weapon that they just developed called the atomic weapon. This is the plot. Now, was this plot positive? Because after all, you know, they kind of make you think that war is acceptable if it's your enemies and, you know, you got to destroy your enemies. Is this a positive thing to do here? Is this a positive plot versus the three boys plot to kill on their hit list at school? Does it make it better to plot to take a nation out because they're your enemy? Well, if you use the guidelines above, it says if you set goals that are made impulsively and because of emotions like hate, anger, revenge, or jealousy, it's going to result in harm to yourself and other people. It's not a positive thing, okay? Whether you're plotting to kill classmates or you're plotting to kill people in another country, not a positive thing. But we'll look at the question here in a minute too. Here's the second article on page 113. It says Tommy's bumper sticker. It says Tommy Ty decided at the tender age of 4 that he wanted to bring peace to the world. By the age of 6, he had managed to borrow $454 from the Children's Free Enterprise Bank to produce 1,000 bumper stickers that say, "Peace, please do it for us kids." Tommy made 9 goals for himself. Okay, now this is pretty interesting. This goes to show you that, you know, you can be very young and be practicing the peaceful solution and set goals. You can be at any age to set goals. Okay, he was old enough to read. He was probably watching the world news with his parents. His parents probably encouraged him to watch world news and to stay up with current events, which is great. All parents should do that. We should do that. I'm really amazed at the number of students that I talk to in the Peaceful Solution, and I ask them, you know, do you know about this? Do you know about what's going on here in the world? Because, you know, we like to use current events in our classes to keep people, you know, to help them to see how, you know, these Peaceful Solution teachings apply in everyday life. And I'm surprised how many of them don't know a thing. They don't even know who the vice president is. They don't know who the Secretary of State is. Some of them don't even know who the mayor of their own town is. Some people don't even know. They just have no clue about anything outside of school and, you know, their friends and home life. But I would encourage you, you know, really need to stay. You don't have to, and I get pretty depressed myself if I got to watch the news for any length of time, but you should at least, you know, scroll through the headlines or something to see what's going on in the world to try to keep up with, because there's a lot of things going on that we need to know about. But anyway, Tommy here, he was only 4 years old, and then by the age of 6, he had borrowed $454 he had a plan. Okay? His first goal, it says, make a plan for a loan, which he did, and he got the loan of $454. Number 2, have a bumper sticker printed. And the bumper sticker said, "Peace, please do it for us kids." The third goal was get addresses of leaders, you know, whether it was local leaders, world leaders, international leaders. You know, I don't know who he, well, it actually says in number 4, write a letter to all the presidents and leaders of other countries and send them a free bumper sticker. I don't know about you, but if I was a world leader and I got a bumper sticker that said, "Peace, please do it for us kids," from a 4-year-old or 6-year-old, I think I'd be pretty touched. I think that would make a very, very, very big impact in my life. If I had, the positive character trait of compassion, or the positive character trait of, responsibility, or, if I had any kind of heart at all, if I got that from a child, I'd be pretty touched by that. I mean, that would make a big, 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 big impact in my life. And I'm sure it would a lot of world leaders if they got that. So that would make a huge difference. Notice, Tommy didn't write a letter that was laced with anthrax, right? He didn't send a letter laced with anthrax or threats of war. If you don't do what I want you to do, well, you guys can all just, go jump off a cliff. There wasn't any threats. There wasn't any, put downs or anything like that. He just wrote a letter, and he has a very simple plan here. And it's very, to me, this is a great plan that Tommy came up with. Speaking of 454, can I show that he had $454? Can I show that next slide? Now, this was a letter sent just recently. This is a letter to. It wasn't an actual letter. What it was is a Newsweek article. That's how they operate. What they do is they show what their plans are to try to put fear into other nations. Like a president of one nation will show that, hey, we're doing a missile launch here. Look at this missile that we've got. Look at this big missile we've got. And it can carry a big payload of nuclear warheads. And they'll put some kind of article out there. Russia says tensions with U.S. getting close to dangerous confrontation, which is a message that they're sending out, that Russia is sending to America, saying, hey, you're getting a little bit too close over here playing around in the Black Sea. I think that's what was going on. America was doing war games with some other allies in the Black Sea. And it makes Russia nervous because Russia, is right there by the Black Sea. And they're thinking, hey, are these people planning on attacking us? Well, just in case they are planning on attacking us, we better put a letter out there. Not like Tommy did with the $454 and the bumper stickers. What we'll do is we'll get a ship that says 454 and we'll launch some rockets off it and let these guys know what they got coming if they mess with us. Is this going to achieve peace? Is that going to make the world leaders calm and peaceful? No, I think it's going to cause a lot of belligerence, anger, probably thoughts of retaliation. Oh, yeah, they think they got that? Well, we got something too, and it's just going to be more retaliation, back and forth, more threats, and it's going to keep building and building and building. And eventually, it could provoke the fear could be provoked in these leaders where somebody actually pushes a button for real. Remember, they're not just sitting on those bombs that they created for no reason. Okay? Let's go ahead and continue here. Let's go to the next page. On page 114, it says, how do the goals in the first article differ from the ones in the second article? Well, in the first article, the three boys' goals were negative. But the second one was positive. And how do we know that? Well, the first one, the three boys were plotting to kill. Is killing ever positive? No, absolutely not. It could never be positive because remember the word moral means not to bring harm to yourself, your neighbor, or the environment. So it could never be moral to kill somebody, okay? I know, the thought is that, well, there's times that killing is acceptable. But if you're following the peaceful solution and you're listening to what it's saying here, it's telling you that life is valuable, yours and everyone else's, and it is not acceptable to bring harm, to inflict pain and suffering, harm, or kill anybody for any reason. Okay? So the three boys' goals was negative. If they had a problem with these children in their class, instead of plotting to kill them, what they should have done is gone and done what the other gentleman did. The example in the positive goal of John seeking to find a peaceful way to handle his problem by speaking to his parents or guidance counselor about how to handle it. That's what they should have done. But the second goal was positive because Tommy, he had a plan to bring peace. Okay? But his plan didn't involve weapons, force, any kind of threats or intimidation, nothing like that. What he planned was this little boy at 4 years old wanted to bring peace, and by the time he was 6, he made $454 to print some bumper stickers out to send out to all the leaders all over the world to try to get them to, find a peaceful solution to their problems. The only thing that Tommy could have used there, along with those bumper stickers, was one of our Peaceful Solution Character Education Program lunch kits, where it says, what's for lunch? The Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. We could have put Tommy's bumper sticker in there along with our lunch kit and, with our sample material of the Peaceful Solution to all these world leaders, and it really would have complemented what Tommy was doing. I'd sure like to meet Tommy someday. That's a really great article there. A really, really, really impressive young man. Okay, the second question on page 114, it says, identify the principles in each of the articles and determine whether they are immoral or moral. So it says in the first article, the three boys had no regard for the value of life. They therefore exhibited immoral principles. Remember, moral means you have regard for human life. Remember page 8 of the character unit. A person that's moral has regard for human life. They recognize that all people have the right to live in peace, safety, and security without threat to their mental health, their physical health, etc. They shouldn't even be threatened with any kind of harm. Nobody should even be threatened with words. It doesn't matter if we ever pick up a weapon or anything like that. If we use words that harm people, that bring harm to them emotionally, then that's just as bad, and sometimes can be even worse. So they exhibited immoral principles. In the second article now, Tommy's goal was to bring about world peace. His goal showed value for life and was therefore moral. Okay? And it's therefore moral. Remember, he didn't want to bring harm to anybody. He just wants to live in a world free of nuclear weapons, free of the threat of destruction, free of, this radioactive golden calf, that they created. It's holding all its global inhabitants captive. Everybody's like a prisoner waiting for that bomb to go off. They're all waiting for what was that called? The doomsday clock to hit midnight. Everybody's waiting for it. No, not everybody. Some people aren't even thinking about it, okay? Some people, it's going to take them by surprise when it does occur. We're hoping that it doesn't occur. We're trying to get this message out to everybody that we can, and we need your help desperately, to get this peaceful solution. You could take it like Tommy did. You can actually Tommy, his bumper sticker campaign is actually quite a great motivator. If this little boy can do it, why can't we do it? Why can't you do it? Why can't I do it? Why can't we get out there and start a campaign on our own? I know some men right now that we teach the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program to in a prison in Virginia. They've been writing letters to all of the state senators in Virginia, the Congress people in Virginia. They've been writing letters to Washington, D.C., to people in D.C. right next door to Virginia there, about the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program that they're learning as prisoners and how it's made a big change in their life. And some of these guys, they've been in there for 20, 25 years. One of them, 33 years, just recently got released. Okay? A prisoner that was learning the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. These guys don't make any money. in that prison. They get very little money for from family or whatever friends they might still have out there in the free world, and they were taking their own little bit of money that they had, and they were buying stamps because those letters weren't free that they mailed out, and they were mailing these letters. They had a letter writing campaign to everybody that they could reach, in government, in the political field there, to try to teach them about the peaceful solution and show them how beneficial it is. If they can do it, what's our excuse? We're talking about prisoners, but they're able to reach outside those walls with the peaceful solution in a letter writing campaign, just like Tommy in his campaign to bring world peace. Okay, so let's look at page 115 now. It says, discuss the illustration and the consequences of each goal shown. And it's talking about this illustration here with the boy laying in the grass, and he's thinking. He's got a big thought cloud over his head, and he has in one part it shows him studying. In another part of that thought cloud, it shows him, it looks like he's in a science lab. And the third part of the thought cloud it looks like he's married, he has a wife, and she's holding their little baby. So he's probably thinking about having a family. Okay, so it's telling us, think positive, be positive, make positive goals. So, what benefit can they become to themselves and others? How can this young boy right here become a benefit to himself and others by studying? By studying. Well, I think it just depends on what he's studying, right? Because studying in itself is not going to make you a positive person. Okay? It's not going to guarantee that you become a moral person. It's not going to guarantee that you're practicing the peaceful solution just because you're studying. Remember, knowledge is power. We learned that in the peaceful solution. Knowledge is power. But what kind of knowledge are we feeding ourselves? Now, if he's learning about, building, he's learning about carpentry, he's learning about plumbing, he's learning about electric, he's learning about some kind of social skill, that will help other people. He's learning to become a doctor, or he's learning some kind of something. If he's studying something with the goal of helping others or serving others and becoming the best person that he can be, then studying is a great thing. And, in the peaceful solution, if you want to be a peaceful solution instructor, you really need to know as much as you can about a lot of different things, a lot of different areas, because the peaceful solution covers all aspects of life. Okay? So you really need to know all you can about all you can know. You need to really try to figure out and find out. And remember, get educated, get all the facts, but make sure those facts are correct or true, and then hold on to what's true, And so studying is a great thing. Studying is going to it's going to help you to achieve your positive goals in life and your purpose. It's going to help you to do that if you're studying something that's positive. Now, on the other hand, if you're studying, can you show this next slide? What if you're studying these books? Getting Even, the complete book of dirty tricks. What if you're studying that book if you're a teenager? Or what if you're studying the Marijuana Grow Bible and learning how to grow marijuana by yourself at home? Is that something positive? Getting Even, growing marijuana, is that something you should be studying? Remember I said, if you're studying something that's negative, okay, then that's the results you're going to get. But if you're thinking positive and you're studying positive things, of course, that's a great thing. Let's think of not the next slide. Don't look at the next slide. Let's go ahead and take that slide down before anybody gets ideas. And this second part of the thought cloud, it shows a man in a science lab. Okay, so he's probably thinking, hey, I'd like to study to be a scientist one day. Now, is there anything wrong with being a scientist? No, scientists have made some pretty great discoveries, and like the light bulb, et cetera. We wouldn't have this television right here, or this light over my head where I can see this book, if we didn't have somebody that invented the light bulbs. Because even the screen that you're watching right now is just a bunch of LED lights. Okay, so all these things, these things are beneficial, and scientists, people that do research, they came up with these things. They came up with a lot of positive things that are very helpful. So if he's studying to become, a scientist with the thought of helping others and the thought of making some kind of discovery that's going to bring some kind of advantage and benefit to other people's lives, great. We're all for it. That's what the Peaceful Solution is all about, is positive growth and development, not only in his own life, but helping bring it to the world, right? But what if let's go to the next slide. What if he was wanting to be a scientist so he could splice mice genes and mustard greens? You could splice the genes of mice and mustard greens. Or what if his plan was to take mice genes and put them in the mustard greens to make the mustard greens more fluffy and more delightful to look at? Would that be a positive thing? No. Splicing genes of mice and mustard greens creates flowers resistant to honeybees. You see that honeybee there getting ready to land on that flower to suck the nectar out of that flower? When we genetically modify things, as we're going to find out in the next book, The Peaceful Solution Self-Control, which we'll get to one day, we can actually be bringing harm to the bees, because there's things inside that plant that's killing the honeybees. We're losing we're losing millions and millions and millions of bees. Okay, they're dying from what's inside of that plant that was genetically modified and put there. Of course, did anybody stop and think? Remember, go back to page 113 at the top where it says, when they did these kind of things, they were thinking to themselves, we don't want insects, to ruin the plant. So what we need to do is we need to put the insecticide inside the plant, so we don't have to spray the plant on the outside with insecticide. We'll go ahead and we'll just put the insecticide internally into the plant. Well, it's a great goal to keep the bugs from eating the plants and ruining your crops and stuff, but did you stop and think that if you put the insecticide inside the plant, what it's going to do to the people that eat it and the bees that come to pollinate? Did we think that the bees don't see any kind of danger, because the danger is on the inside. It's genetically modified. So the bee, gets the nectar, and the bee ends up dying, from what's inside that plant or that flower. And we need the bees. Come on, we need the bees. They pollinate all the crops. Without bees, we would all be, I think, was it Einstein that said, mankind would die out if the bees weren't here. So we need the bees. Okay, we need to stop and think about what we're doing, and we need to get educated about what we're doing. So there wouldn't be anything wrong with the boy wanting to be a scientist, but if he's going to be splicing genes of mice and mustard greens and creating flowers resistant to honeybees, then we got a problem. It's called cross-contamination. We don't need that. What we need is scientists that are bringing benefit to the world, that are bringing benefit to society, that are bringing benefit to themselves and other people, things that build and not destroy, things that make life more enjoyable, more advantageous, more healthy, okay? Not make people sick, not make animals sick, not make the bees sick, not make anything sick, okay? So certainly it's a positive goal, and it would be positive if they pursue that goal in a positive way with a peaceful solution. That's why if you're going to study and if you're going to be a scientist, you've really got to add the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program to your curriculum, because no education is complete without moral character education. Yes, we need reading. Yes, we need writing. Yes, we need science. Yes, we need social studies. But you've got to put moral character education as taught in the Peaceful Solution in the mix. Without it, you could be a really, really smart in math, or you could be a really great, you could be a really great mathematician, but you could also be stealing from people using your math. You could be an accountant that likes to steal from, the person that you're doing accounting for. Okay, so you've got to have the moral education so you won't bring harm to other people. Okay, that's why it's so important, so you can learn the benefit of moral choices and using morality and self-control in all your decision making. Now, finally, in this thought cloud on page 115, it shows him with his wife and his baby. Is wanting to start a family a positive goal? Absolutely. Okay. If it's pursued the right way, it won't bring harm to anybody. Okay, if he grows up and if he uses the guidelines in the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program that he'll learn about choosing a mate, first of all, what he should be thinking about is, what kind of character does this woman have? Okay, what kind of character does she have? Because if I want to start a family, then I want to make sure that I find a woman that has similar goals and purpose in life that I have, that's positive, not something negative. Because if you hook up with somebody that's got negative goals when you have positive goals, that's not going to work out well for you. So you want to make sure that the person that you're pursuing has positive moral character in mind as well. That's something that she has on her list of achievements in life. So there wouldn't be anything wrong with getting married and starting a family if it's done the right way. Remember, not doing things the way most people do, just jumping right into something, but getting to know that person through conversation and through observation over a long period of time. Not getting to know them the way Hollywood teaches people to get to know people, but getting to know them the right way and not putting your hands on anyone, not doing any of those things, being respectful, getting to know them through conversation and observation. There wouldn't be anything wrong with him getting married in that fashion. But what if, let's show the next slide, what if he chose to do it the way most people do it that haven't been taught the Peaceful Solution? Let's say that he picks up this girl and does things with her before they're even married and causes birth defects in their children. And let's say they have a family and they end up having children, but the child has birth defects because of some of the poor choices that the parents made. Okay, is that going to be something positive? Absolutely not. What if he decides that, hey, I want to start a family, so I'm going to steal my neighbor's wife? I like my neighbor's wife. I can't find anybody else out here. I'm going to go ahead and, but I do like my neighbor's wife. I'm going to take my neighbor's wife. Is that going to be a great decision? Most people don't even know this, but there's actually a law against, in 7 states, there's laws against, I can't remember the name of the law, but it's stealing affection. It's when you steal someone else's wife, you can actually be charged with that. In this case, this man in North Carolina, this is just a couple years ago, it says Pitt County man wins $750,000 judgment against man for stealing his wife. This man actually sued a man for stealing his wife and won a judgment of $750,000. So not only is it against the law, where you can actually have to pay out of your pocket, it's also not a moral thing to do to steal, is it? Whether you're stealing a candy bar, or whether you're stealing a bicycle, or you're stealing someone's wife, or you're stealing someone's family member, okay? It's not something positive. It shouldn't be pursued in that way, okay? It has to be pursued using morality and self-control, as we learned back on page 113. Morality and self-control has to be used when you set goals. If you'll do that, if you'll use morality and self-control in all your goal setting, You'll always set positive, achievable goals that won't bring harm to yourself, your neighbor, or anyone else. And that's all the time I have tonight. I think the next class is on what, the 21st? Sunday, 11/21 at 5:30 p.m. Sunday at 5:30, 11/21. Okay, 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's been great with you tonight, and I hope to see you again next time. Remember, keep practicing the peaceful solution and keep tuning in. And our next teacher should be Catan. Thank you very much.